and she can understand that a big part of life is to endure. That's why I make her exercise every day, because you have to endure. Why is that? Big part of oppression is ignorance. So the reason why exercise is good on a day-to-day basis, I don't mean just any exercise. Exercise until you feel the pain and cross that threshold, is because we need to endure every day. That's why I have her exercise every day. You need to be challenged every day. You have to overcome something every day. So I make sure the top of her morning, there's something she has to overcome. That'll be her exercise. So now it'll be tied into the emotional circuitry of her brain. Yeah, what's cracking, King? We want it to be, you have emotional circuitry. And so there was a nice video that I saw that I applied the information and shared it with my daughter. And it goes as follows, that your emotions are connected. Your body or your brain pretty much is a computer. We know that. Your brain's a supercomputer. And what happens is, without the right discipline, without the proper discipline, your body becomes your mind. Okay? And at the very least, your subconscious mind. And that has to stop. So your body, you can do something so much habitually that your body has more fix on how to respond to the world than your mind itself, because you've acclimated your body to the response based on habits that you perpetuate on a day-to-day basis. So what does this mean? You get up, you go watch your social media probably around the same hours every day. It frustrates you, it gets you upset. Some things make you happy, but you do it day to day, like clockwork. You eat at certain times like clockwork. Go to bed at certain times like clockwork. Go to work, definitely, that's a construct in itself. You're going to do that like clockwork. So eventually, you don't really have to think during the day. You don't really construct during the day. You just follow a program. And then that becomes your circuitry. That becomes an emotional circuitry. Okay? So you wind up conforming to the program. A program that you created. So now, why am I saying emotional circuitry? This is very important, because with the emotional circuitry now, look what happens. Something happens that you don't like, and it kind of sticks with you for a few days, and that develops a mood. And then it sticks with you for a few more months, and that develops a temperament. And that same crisis sticks with you so long, right, that it now becomes a character trait. Okay? So this is what I mean by emotional circuitry. You being wired in. Okay? It's like hard wires, right? And so what happens is, if these emotions go unresolved for too long, it precipitates a mood. And if these emotions are persistent, and you don't resolve them in a few days, that it becomes a mood. In a few months' time, it becomes a temperament. And if they go unresolved in months' time, over a year and change, you still are stigmatized by that previous experience that's causing you to react to the world a certain way. It becomes a character trait. So this is why people have trust issues, all right? It has this inception maybe in something in their early adolescence, and no one taught them how to confront those issues. And so the mood became a temperament, and the temperament became a character trait. And there's 16 different personality types out here in the world. But verily, much of the way we respond to the world is based on habit. And so we have this preconceived notion of how things will be based on events and circumstances that affected us the wrong way. Not based on events and circumstances that affected us the right way. Most of us show reluctance because fear is our first response to new information. And that incapacitates us. And that's what oppression does for us as a people, because the most interconnected part of the brain is found within the confines of the limbic system, which is called the amygdala. And the amygdala is where fear resonates. And so it's the first thing that we normally deal with when confronted with new information. until we reprogram ourselves. Yeah, so that's why even if you look at our approach towards information, it's normally about something negative. You know, we don't have space to teach about positive things. So some people say, yo, I go to your media, you don't be talking about police brutality much. You know, you don't be talking about how this cracker abused us and raped and lynched us and castrated us. I do from time to time. But other than that, I'll be race baiting and I'll be preying on your lower emotions for the sake of conversation, views, hits, maybe get a few coins from media, social media purposes. I don't want to talk about that because then that's what my world will become. And then the stigma of me, there will be a stigma that exists whenever it comes time for me to be successful, because I'll have to be afraid that the white man's going to take my car, he's going to take my house, or some form of fashion of the same. Like the new thing that goes on social media now, anytime someone has a problem with the other person, they call the feds. These are the same people who don't like the feds. These are the same people who don't like the white man. They're the same people who don't like the white man system. Same people who don't like the prison incarceration system. And so because they stay in that so much, their response equals that which they don't like. The very thing they don't like is what they appraise. The very thing they don't like is what they call for, they demand, because there's no space for new information. All right, so if you're into the seeing images of us being raped, lynched, and castrated, and then I turn around and I ask those same people, okay, so tell me some wealthy black billionaires. You know what their answer is going to be? They ain't doing nothing for black people. But the interesting thing is, if you're not selling us on the idea that our people are impoverished and they don't have nothing, then I say, well, let's discuss some of the people who made it out, who are very successful, who made money. Well, our conversation then has to become, well, those people are sellouts because they're not giving to people, particularly you is who you're talking about, but they're not giving to people, our people. And so I start to ask, where's the space for positive information? They get to a point where there's no space for positivity. Because damn if you do, damn if you don't. Black people don't have. I say, let's have a conversation about the black people that do have. Well, the black people that do have, they got bad intentions. So you're telling me nobody on planet Earth has money that's black, that has good intentions? See, I don't want to exist in that world, but that's what happens when your education is primarily negative. That's what happens when you have your emotional circuitry caters to previous experiences that have stigmatized you, and you're afraid to rewire yourself or reprogram yourself with new positive and progressive information. So I like to give information on hope, but then they say, oh, you with them prosperity teachings. You know, you teaching them prosperity teachings to make a buck, like the pastor or the preacher. So now people are mad that I teach about prosperity, because we don't want no prosperity teachings. We want those teachings about our balls being cut off and us being shackled and us being raped and us being lynched, us being castrated, us being whipped. You see, we want that information because that's what's, it doesn't seem comfortable. Because we want to deal with what we know, because the fear of the unknown creates more fear. We actually like to be oppressed. If the information doesn't sound oppressive, we don't like the information. That's how this thing works. So I'm the fool that has to come out here and say, well, let's talk about getting those nice houses every now and then. And in fact, not every now and then. Let's talk about that most of the time. And let's talk about the opportunities that are abound that we can access.